Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Mikhail Peters. So I got a great comment from my top Finnish commenter, actually maybe not, but one of them, the Striving for Perfection dude who I think would like to remain anonymous. So shout out to you for actually giving me some good ideas with like the US versus Finnish comparisons, because I do want to keep these going because I think they're interesting. I think people like watching them, I hope at least. So today, one of those ones was about infrastructure, and that's the thing that I want to talk about. So I just got done recording my Russian video where I complained about a taxi driver who really wanted to gyp me, or somebody commented that gyp is derived from like gypsies and it's kind of derogatory. I didn't know that because of usually it's spelled J-I-P, not J-Y-P, but that's interesting. Okay, whatever, deceive, whatever word you want to use there, rip me off, there we go. And like, I just kind of responded by saying, like, people like ask me why I don't want to live in like, you know, the Soviet countries or Russia specifically, right? Like full time. And I do think some of it has to do with infrastructure. So I'm going to start it off that way because it's true that like the US by comparison has a higher standard of living. And I think the thing to keep in mind, so like my dad would always tell me growing up, like people are never going to work harder than they have to. And I think what I'd like to say is with infrastructure that's not as well developed, there is a certain level of needing to work harder than you have to. And I think people are always going to try to get the best amount of whatever they can for the least amount of work. So that could be money, that could be like, I don't even know, like romantic relationships probably in some kind of way. Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that. Like, I don't know. Like, how can I make this the least amount of work? That's not good. I'm not saying it's always a good thing, okay? But I'm saying that people, like, we need to keep in mind humans are innately lazy and are going to try to conserve their energy in certain ways. So, yeah, I mean, with that, let's start with the advent of the car, right? So the car is a very integral part of the American lifestyle, and people are really grossed out by this, myself included, because I've experienced living in places where I can walk around. It's kind of cool. I feel like I'm exercising and I'm literally just going about my day. You know, you have more time for more like, spontaneous. Maybe I'm just going to walk into the store, which can happen if you're living in a US city. I'm not like a huge city person, as I've talked about many times. Like, you know, the other day my aunt was encouraging me to, like, she's like, our brains are so powerful, like the whole manifestation thing. And she's like, what do you want? Like, I'm like, I want an $800,000 house with a yard and a dog in it. And then she's like, why does it have to be $800,000? I was like, no, it's just the kind of house I want where I live. It's how much it goes for. I'm like, it doesn't have to specifically cost $800,000. But I'm like, I kind of want woods behind my house. I'm not really sure. Like I should probably talk about this on the Russian side. Somebody asked me, like, would I rather live near the beach or would I rather live near the forest? Probably the forest, which is probably why I like Finland. But anyway, that's actually a good point. Finland has a huge foresting industry, which probably somewhat contributes to being able to do construction cheaply. Somebody can fact check me on that, because I'm speaking out of thin air here, let's say, because I actually don't know. I just know that it's a big industry. And you know, in the US, they talk about like the issues being supplies and the issues being labor. So you have to keep in mind that the US capitalism exploits people, you know, sad reality, it's true, okay? And there was a lot of like illegal labor that had been relied on to do construction for a long time, and we know that based on the current political situation, even though I don't like to talk about politics, like, you know, Trump really is very interested in changing the status of that situation, let's say, by getting rid of a lot of those people and sending them back home to their own countries. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of always struggled to understand his stance on that, besides of just it being xenophobic in nature, because I don't, like, if you look at it purely from, like, business, it's like that has been how our country has functioned for a long time. And I don't know, this gets into something really difficult, and I'm sorry, this is like a tangent at this point, but, like, these people really, because I learned about this in the Spanish class in high school, it's like these people really have a better life in the US. So the fact that they're making less than Americans, like a lot of times they're happy, and then somebody's getting cheap labor, so they're happy. So it's sort of like both people are happy. So I also struggle to understand that too. Whatever, doesn't matter. But so infrastructure in the US, it's very like, things are expensive, right? And we have to think about supply and demand. Like, people do want to come to the US. It's a very coveted country. Like, everybody's trying to get to the US. I wouldn't say everybody's trying to get to Finland, and I'd say that's mostly a weather thing. And I'm going to be honest, the first time I came to Finland in 2019 and I saw how beautiful the buildings were, and like, I just loved the infrastructure and the architecture. Like, it was probably at that point, before I'd even come to Finland on the Fulbright, that I kind of like fell in love with Finland in a way, like very like aesthetically. And it's just like that, you know, that Scandinavian, like very sleek, clean look, and it's very simple. And I've always appreciated how there's a lot of built-in like storage in every home. Like you have these closets in rooms, and it's not like you have to like put in a dresser and like put in another dresser, and then your closet's too small. And then in Texas they're super into the walk-in closets, which, to be fair, like I kind of like walk-in closets too, because I have a lot of clothes, but whatever. So and I like my clothes. I'm like too emotionally attached to my clothes. It's probably another weird thing, like Finnish people, and that's getting into the consumer video, which I do want to talk about that in a separate video. But I think that in Finland, you know, maybe this is just the government really, let's say, takes care of its people. I mean, really, like this money is going towards making sure that everybody across the board has a high standard of living. That's something like I really have not seen in other countries. Like even in the US, you think, oh, it's a country with so much wealth. It's like people, for financial reasons, are still not going to, you know, be able to get renovations fairly often in their homes. Like people are living in really crappy areas. Think about student housing is really expensive in the US if you do it through the university. Then if you do it not through the university, because it's like students are in there. I think there's another thing. So Finnish people drink a lot, right? Like I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Like that's definitely true, okay? But you know, you could be like, everybody drinks a lot, whatever, doesn't matter. But people in the US, for some reason, when they're drinking, like actually destroy things. I've seen that one time in Finland where somebody accidentally broke a door handle off of a bathroom door because they were drinking. Other than that, I have never seen anybody like vandalize or damage property just from being drunk in Finland. So I think that's another thing that why they don't want to, you know, make student housing a certain way, because they think like, oh, they're gonna mess it up, which like they will. That's how it works in the US. Like I feel like every time somebody's drunk, like something happens and somebody breaks something. Like I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I've been at a house where more than one person was drunk and something didn't get broken, and I don't even understand how. Literally don't get it. Okay, but yeah, so like in the US, I think it's just we don't invest very much into making sure that people have a high standard of living. Like everything is very profits driven. Like even like going to just like, I'm gonna say like doctor's offices, like something stupid. It's like the buildings in Finland are just so pristine and so clean and so well maintained and everything. And in the US, it's just not that way. Like it may be outdated from like the 90s and then nobody's going to redo it. And you can also kind of see it with like the volume of construction that's going on in Finland versus the US. And in the US, construction is only going on because it's new construction and people are stupid and want new things. Well, I mean, that's anybody. It's probably not stupid. That's just how people are. So it's like that will like get a lot of money and a lot of hype and a lot of attention and a lot of support, but then like maintaining the standard of living for the people who are already living there, no. Like right now where I live in New Jersey, like we're building new stuff for all the people who are coming down from New York to come and buy that stuff and move into the area. Okay, cool, but for us local people, you know, there's this movie on Netflix, oh my gosh, what is it called? And it's like basically, oh, I can't remember. Maybe I'll remember at some point. If I do, I can drop it below, but I don't think I'm going to. But basically, the girl, she becomes like a babysitter for this guy or something, but I don't know. But anyway, she was living in like near Montauk, like the Long Island part, like under New York City, and they're having an issue too where like the rich people from New York are coming in, kind of driving out the local people who've been there for a while. And like that's a very real thing that is happening. It's like gentrification, right? Like gentrification does happen. So then it's like all the minorities who live in our area are the ones who are really being driven out and being like, I'm going down to North Carolina where I have family, and then they sell their house because they can get a bunch of money for it. So it's just kind of crazy. Like it really does have to do with demand. You know, they always say in real estate, location. And I think in Finland, it's like the location is not the thing that's popping. Although everybody knows that that's true with like Helsinki, right? And from what I've heard, and at this point, I know that's like good news is bad, or bad news is good news rather. And people really like to catastrophize things. And I never like know how much to believe people because people just say stuff. But like this stupid taxi driver yesterday, he quoted me a nondescript price, which was not what he was asking at the end, but I digress. Anyway, I was super pissed off at that because I was so tired. I can't even explain. I literally just slept till 2 o'clock today. It's just what needed to happen. It's fine. Okay. But yeah, where was I going with that? Hold on. Ah, yes. Okay. So really what it has to do with is like the, what do they call it? Urbanization problem. This is happening everywhere, but I understand it's particularly a problem, especially among young educated people in Finland, where everybody's moving to the capital region and there's like a big housing issue there. I'm sure that's true, but I would still argue that most of the housing in Helsinki is way nicer than most of the housing in New York City, for example. Oh God, with the rats in the subway. I finally saw one of those. It was disgusting. Okay. Anyway, another thing with the urbanization issue, just to throw this out here because I think this is very interesting, is apparently a lot of that, let's say forestry jobs or whatever other jobs, like industry jobs that are predominantly male, like apparently a lot of men are in the smaller villages in Finland, and all the women are getting more like into this urbanization thing and moving to the capital region. So there's this big disproportion between men and women in these different areas, and then they're like, oh well, should we send the women to the more like middle of nowhere areas, like the very small towns, like rural areas? And I don't know, like I really thought about that because I was like, I don't think I'd want to like do that. Like like I need something kind of medium. Like that's what I realized. I want something too rural, I want something too urban. It's like the porridge. I want like the medium temperature porridge, yeah. But so the other thing with infrastructure, besides, I just talked a lot about housing and like the niceness of housing, but the other thing, okay, actually let's keep talking about housing, and then I'm going to talk about like cars and stuff. But the thing with housing is that Americans live in very big houses. Americans have a lot of crap. So I think that kind of delays the ability to be able to do renovations, like if and when you want, aside from the cost aspect. Whereas in Finland, like everything's really small and compact, and most people live in flats or apartments, as I call them, right? I'm not British. I don't say flat, I say apartment. Okay, I don't even know, like, sometimes I'm like, where do these accents come from? Okay, whatever. I wish I was better at them. That'd be fun. That'd make my life a lot more fun. Anyway, okay. So it's like a space thing and a size thing with that as well. Okay. Yeah. I don't know that I can add much more to that. Also, working in construction is not like a problem job in Finland. I'd say in the US, like I said, it ends up being, pawned off to a lot of like immigrant people to pay them lower wages. Whereas in Finland, it's like, again, it's like the construction worker, the person at the grocery store. I know they're getting a living wage and at least getting health insurance. Don't get me started on health insurance. Which, by the way, don't forget that if you are not Finnish and you're an international student and you're watching this, that I have the link to the SwissCare thing in my bio. SwissCare is one of these. Yeah, again, this is like the one paid partnership I have, so I'm going to do the little interlude for that. No, I just think like if you're applying for your residence permit or if you just need coverage, it could be useful if you don't already get covered. I guess one thing I found, though, is I think I have gone to the hospital one time when I didn't have any coverage, to my knowledge, in Finland, and the bill was like $40. And they did an x-ray, like, what? That'd be like $1,000 in the US, but then with insurance, it'd maybe be $300. But it'd be like $300, yeah. There's another infrastructure thing. Yeah, the healthcare discussion, oh gosh, like, these are all a lot of really loaded discussions. Okay, but anyway, finishing the discussion on, yeah, like part of it's just renovations are not happening, right? Like we don't have like the construction workers or the money to pay the construction workers. So everybody in the US is enjoying or not enjoying a lower standard of living most of the time in the places they're living in. I'm not saying that's everybody, but like I've seen some situations, okay? And it's like not everybody in the US is entitled to the same standard of living. And there is a really big rich and poor disparity. And I would kind of like to do more research, make a video on that, both for the English and the Russian side, because I think it could be interesting. Okay, so now we're going to talk about cars. So one time I did Google this, and I failed to remember whether I mentioned this in another video. But what started happening, actually, the Psychology of Money book had talked about how after World War II, and I think I mentioned this like very recently, it's the idea that the government started pumping a bunch of money, like making cheap credit available, and like it got to the point where everybody could have that American dream, let's say, like the house and the car and stuff, and the wife who stays at home and does nothing. No, I'm just kidding. Who does housework? My family would always say, because I came from a family of housewives, like, that's the harder job. I don't know if it's the hard job, but I think it's the more annoying, mindless job, and I don't like being mindless all the time. It makes my brain hurt. Okay, whatever. So there became kind of this ideal, and this is just, you have to keep in mind, this is how America was formed, right? Like, let's give a weird example, and I'm kind of going out on a limb here, as they say, with this, but like, nudity, right? Like, Americans are very protective over their nudity in a way that Europeans are not. I'm just going to start with that, right? So there's kind of this like innate need for privacy, and people are very into like having their own space, their personal space, and having their own yard. I'm not going to lie, like, I kind of want my own yard too. Like, it's just sort of how I grew up, and it's like sometimes you just like what you know because you're used to it and it's familiar and it's comfortable, and then you never question why you like it, so you're like, I just like it. Could be with anything, like literally anything. So like, people grew up a lot of times like in suburbs. Like, suburbs became the idea, like the spread out land, right? Like, this was an American value that became ingrained very early. I want to say as early as the 1880s, if I remember correctly from this article. So it was like everybody wanted their own house, and then because we're building houses far apart, we then need cars also. And this is like a chicken or egg thing. I don't really remember whether the car or the house came first kind of situation, but they're making it so that, you know, the cars are needed to be getting around, and you know, it's going from like one family car to like how many people do we have living in our house? 6, and I think we have 7 cars, and like one of those people doesn't drive. So why? Good question. Exactly. Sometimes people like to have more than one car. Actually, one of my NASA coworker friends, he had 3 cars, and 2 of them were like show cars that he would take to these car meetups. I don't know, like, some people use cars as a hobby. That was actually the other question, was like Finnish versus American car culture. I'd have to phone a friend for that one because I really don't know much more on that. Although I could phone my one friend who's really into car stuff in Finland. I don't know, whatever. But in the US, I'd need that person too. Put them on an interview. There we go. But yeah, so the infrastructure is very based around cars. Like, that's something that I'm trying to get across, is it's like, and people are like, well, why is it like that? Because it's how it was, like, it was formed originally, right? And to go through it and like redo an entire structure. It's like, if you don't want to use a car, move to New York City. That's pretty much your only option. I don't even think there are any other city. I think San Francisco, you can kind of get around without a car. I've been there, and like that I could see. But any other city I've been to in the US, no, you can't get around without a car. You can't. Like, if I need to get somewhere, I probably had to take an Uber. That's just how it was. It'd be like that. No, I don't know. Okay, so that's kind of everything that I think I have for this topic. Like, we just have to keep in mind, I think, that it's very different values around having a car, right? Like, even people, it's like having a car is like a status thing, not the idea of having a car, whereas in Europe or like, you know, CIS countries, it would be, but like, everybody already has a car because you have to, otherwise you can't like go to work and like live a normal life. It's like having clothes. That's like really dramatic because it's kind of not, but no, I mean, really, like, it's a problem. Like, people do have to have cars, which is why like DUIs are a big problem, and like, yeah, driving under the influence of something. So yeah, I don't know, like, yeah, I would say like Finland takes the cake with this whole like having really good infrastructure thing, but you know, people, I don't know, like the opportunities in the US, so they're gonna go for that. I don't know, like, it depends. Or if I think about like what I want, right, like, I'm happy in an apartment in Finland, but like long term I do want to own a house in the US. Why? Because I grew up in a house in the US. I think that's why. Like, it's like familiar and natural to me, and it's like something I want. Now, that goal is like 10 years away, man, but it's my goal nonetheless. It's still there. Okay, that's everything for today. I hope that answers the question. I feel like that was a little ranty, as usual. All right, well, I'm gonna go eat something, and I have to work. I kind of took a break from being in La Padranta because I felt like I had too many people who were wanting to hang out with me, and then I was like, I can't meet all these requests, so I'm just gonna run away. No, not really. I had this trip planned, although literally I came back from the other trip and was like, I'm not going on an airplane again, and I'm not gonna lie, it was terrible. It was really bad, which is probably why I slept until 2 p.m. Just trauma from the airplanes. So dumb. Okay, all right, until next time, bye.